Welcome to Inline, a new podcast by Decode MR. In today's episode, we will be discussing a condition that's becoming alarmingly common among women, especially in the last few years. To shed light on this, we have with us Dr. Mahua, a consultant gynecologist practicing in Kolkata. Doctor, thank you so much for joining and thank you so much for shedding light on polycystic ovarian syndrome.
Good morning, Meghna.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so doctor, to start with, we understand that PCOS is a common hormonal disorder affecting many women. How would you describe PCOS in simple terms for someone unfamiliar with it?
Okay, as you have rightly said, Meghna, PCOS is one of the commonest hormonal problem affecting about 10% of women of childbearing age. We all know that the ovaries are the female reproductive organs producing two hormones, estrogen and progesterone, and a small amount of male hormone, androgens. In PCO, what happens, these ovaries, they increase in size and their outer surfaces get covered with small cysts. These cysts are nothing but small fluid-filled sacs containing immature eggs. Because of hormonal imbalance, these eggs fail to come out from the ovary, that is called anovulation, giving rise to number of menstrual changes, body changes, and long-term implications, right, in reproductive health, metabolic, and cardiovascular health.
Right. And what are some of the main causes or risk factors which are associated with PCOS?
Actually, PCOS is a complex condition. Exact etiology is not known. So certain risk factors are found to be associated with PCO. So number one is genetic. Researchers have found certain genes are associated with PCOS, and it's familial. It runs in the family. Suppose a lady has got PCO, her sister will have 50% more chance of having PCOS than general population, where the risk is 5 to 10%.
Okay. And like you mentioned genetics, doctor, so is there a way to predict or prevent PCOS in high-risk individuals?
There is no way we can predict, but we can prevent so that long-term consequences are reduced. Okay? So to prevent, we'll have to identify these high-risk individuals. So who are these high-risk individuals? Those with family history of polycystic ovary, those with family history of diabetes, with obesity, with irregular cycle, with increased hair growth. So we'll have to identify this group of girls and do some investigations.
Okay. And doctor, women often overlook the symptoms of PCOS as they may be mistaken for normal adolescent changes or other conditions, and this can lead to delayed diagnosis and potential health complications. So apart from everything that you've mentioned, what are the key symptoms that should prompt women to seek medical advice?
So see, at puberty there is lots of endocrinological and metabolic changes which are essential for onset of puberty. But these changes are reversible. Within maybe 2 to 3 years, these changes become normal. But it's individuals with persistence of irregularities, that is menstrual irregularities in the form of amenorrhea, that is no period at all, or prolonged cycle, or irregular menstruation, or with androgen excess in the form of excessive hair growth, along the male distribution of hair, then hair loss, acne. Another thing we call is acanthosis nigricans, that is also very important, that is darkening of the skin around the neck and axilla. These are the symptoms to be monitored. If a girl, even after puberty, these symptoms are persisting, then there's a chance of these girls to develop PCOS in later part of life. And there are two other conditions, we call it congenital adrenal hyperplasia and adrenal tumors. They also give rise to these sort of symptoms. So they are also to be excluded. Okay. So blood test to be done. So what we need to do, take a proper history, family history, signs and symptoms, and then the tests. investigation.
Got it, doctor. And what are some of the potential complications if PCOS is not managed properly?
Right. So there's certain long-term. That's why we call it polycystic ovary syndrome. Okay. First is reproductive life. As there is problem in ovulation, so ovulation sometimes become very infrequent. So there will be egg will not be coming out from the ovary. Then in that case, pregnancy will be difficult. So leading to infertility. Okay. Then second is metabolic. Metabolic means there's a chance of developing diabetes mellitus in the later part of life. Dyslipidemia means high cholesterol. Then from cardiac problem, heart issue, high pressure, and last not the least is mental health issue.
Doctor, if women go on to face fertility issues with PCOS, what are the available treatment options to improve fertility?
First is lifestyle change. This is very important. Obesity is one of the is a factor that is related to PCO because obesity increases insulin resistance. So these are the two hormones, androgen, increased androgen and increased insulin resistance. These are responsible for all the symptoms causing PCO. So with increased insulin, androgen increases. So ovulation is hampered. It becomes anovulatory. Eggs are not coming out. So even they are coming out, the quality of the eggs are not so good. So for ovulation to occur, we advise all my patients to reduce weight. At least 10% of weight reduction will improve insulin sensitivity, decrease androgen, improve ovulation. If it doesn't help, then there are medicines to improve ovulation. Also medicines to decrease insulin sensitivity. That is the medicine given in diabetes, metformin. So with all these efforts, the made women usually become pregnant successfully. But even these methods fail, then the last option is assisted reproduction. That is IVF pregnancy.
Got it. And doctor, for a woman with PCOS who is pregnant, what are the risks associated and how can they be managed?
There are definitely there are risks associated with pregnancy. First is miscarriage. PCO and miscarriage, they are highly related. There will be 30% chance of miscarriage compared to general population where the percent is 10 to 15%. Then next is gestational diabetes. That is blood sugar increases in pregnancy. So that should be monitored with regular basis with blood tests, with glucose tolerance test. And if it crosses certain limit, then medicine to be given. Next is high pressure. We call it hypertension in pregnancy or PIH. That we have medicines for hypertension as well, high pressure. And this high pressure, if the pressure goes high, placenta cannot work properly, there's a chance of preterm birth. So there are lots of complications. Each complication should be monitored individually and to be treated.
Got it, doctor. And as you mentioned, in terms of lifestyle changes, even if there is a 10% weight reduction, that is beneficial. So
definitely,
what are some of the effective dietary and exercise interventions for women with this condition?
Right. So if we want to reduce weight, 70% will be through diet and 30% will be through exercise. So the girls should be made aware that they should have healthy food. Okay? Ideally, no fast food, avoid unhealthy fat, avoid processed sugar, have home cooked food with lots of grains, fruits, vegetables, lean meat, and adequate amount of fluid. That is also very important. Not only diet, adequate amount of fluid to be taken, regular meal hours. That is timely, nowadays the pattern has changed. No, that won't do. Regular meal hours and the portion to be controlled. The portion one is eating to be controlled. If all these do not help, then they can consult any dietitian. And for exercise, because of academic loads, we cannot ask all the girls to do exercise 1 hour every day, isn't it? So I
Correct.
ask them at least to do, at least for 10 to 15 minutes, must do some form of exercise, maybe in the form of walking, yoga, gym, swimming, whatever. Certain form of exercise to be done, along with changing the food habits.
Got it. And coming to my last question, doctor, given the delayed presentation to healthcare facilities, educating young women about PCOS is extremely important. So,
Absolutely.
what strategies can be implemented in schools and healthcare settings to enhance awareness and early detection of this condition?
I think every school should have some health educators. So they can make them aware that such a condition exists, make them aware of the signs and symptoms of polycystic ovary and their long-term implications, educate them about menstrual health, about their diet, their lifestyle changes, about their exercise. So once these girls become aware of such conditions, they are not going to have any anxiety issue once they face these symptoms. They will be able to speak out. They can they can talk to their teachers, or they can take advice from any medical practitioner. So this is going to help them to become aware. Okay. So that they can take control of their own health. So anxiety issue, mental problem will be reduced. Okay, they can talk to their peers, they can talk to their teachers, they can talk to any medical advisors. So this is very important, that this education should start from school itself.
Like right at the baseline.
Okay.
Got it, doctor. So that was my last question to you. Thank you so much, doctor, for joining today's podcast. It was extremely insightful and a very lovely discussion. And I hope to connect with you in the future for our other relevant podcasts. And to our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in today. And we will see you again next month.
Thank you.